What is up, people, and welcome to the Casual Wrestling Daily Podcast, where every day is a throwdown and every episode is a body slam. Join us as we delve into the world of professional wrestling, breaking down all of the latest news, matches, and rumors from the squared circle. From WWE to AEW, we'll cover it all as we break down the biggest matches, rumors, and news that you need to know about. So sit back, relax, and get ready to rumble as we bring you all the action from the world of wrestling. All right, a little bit of housekeeping to start the show. If you are enjoying the Casual Wrestling Daily Podcast and want to support the show, we've got a great way for you to do just that. For just $5 a month, you can become a patron of the channel and help keep the Casual Wrestling Daily Podcast growing and going strong. All you have to do is go to patreon.com/The Casual Wrestling Show. As a patron, you'll get access to exclusive bonus content, including behind the scenes looks at making of the show, Q&A sessions, and much more. You'll also get the satisfaction of knowing that you're helping to keep the Casual Wrestling Daily Podcast and channel stay on the air, so I can keep bringing you all of the latest from the world of professional wrestling. So, if you are a fan of the show and you want to help us keep bringing you the best wrestling content we know how to bring you, consider becoming a patron today. Your support means the world to us, and we can't wait to bring you even more great content in the future. So thank you for your support, and thank you to the current Patreon producers and bloodline of this show, Ian the Noobs Newberry, and it's Zinni. All right, guys, so I did end up taking Saturday off. I had every intention of recording a new show, but at the last minute with Christmas shopping and inability to get away from like family obligations, it hindered all of that. So I figured it was best just to rest up, come back in Monday going strong and hit it. So without further ado, it's time that we jump into today's Ringside Recap. Now, if you missed last night's wrestling show or you just want to relive the excitement, I've got you covered on the Ringside Recap. We're about to go over all of the top matches, segments, and storylines from the latest episode of Smackdown, offering some pretty good analysis and opinions on all the events that took place. Today's Ringside Recap is brought to you courtesy of WWE and Friday Night Smackdown. So we kicked off the show on Friday with a little more of the same. You know, if it's not broken, why fix it? And so we started off the show with the Bloodline, and we got the Bloodline doing the Bloodline thing where the customary coming out to the ring and cutting a promo that's, you know, kind of Sami Zayn centric. It seems to be the theme of the month of December for the Bloodline. And so pretty much more of the same, but the thing that we have to take notice of, the most important thing I think we have to talk about, and when we talk about the opening of SmackDown, is we really have to dive into this thought process that Sami Zayn is possibly the most over superstar in all of WWE. At this point in time, in this current moment, in the current atmosphere, I believe that Sami Zayn is more over than Roman Reigns. I believe that Sami Zayn is more over than Seth Rollins. I believe he's more over. I mean, what are the biggest baby faces in the company? Who right now there's a void in the babyface department, and I think Sami Zayn is being set up. When I've done a lot in the last couple weeks, I've done a lot of dogging Triple H for his booking, and I still think that after the Bloodline. After the Bloodline storyline, Triple H is very lost. He doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't have a clear direction moving forward. But what I do think is that he's nailing this Bloodline. He's nailing the Sami Zayn story. He is effectively setting Sami up for maybe the biggest babyface turn in the history of professional wrestling. Because where we're headed is, look, it was obvious with that final embrace between Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn, and Roman looking into the camera and breaking the fourth wall and kind of letting everybody know that the end is near. I think that we're being set up, and Triple H is doing a good job, and WWE is doing a good job of We are about to get the biggest babyface turn possibly ever in professional. I can't think. I mean, if I think back, I really can't picture a bigger possible babyface turn than this, because inevitably, here's what I think we're if you allow me to walk forward and jump into the future as we come upon this final SmackDown of the year. And as we roll into January, we've made it about halfway through this 9-week of doom is kind of what I labeled it. Having no premium live event, nothing to build toward. Triple H has at least kept the bloodline interesting enough that he's kept me interested enough in SmackDown. But here's what I think we're building towards. I think what I feel in my heart of hearts is this John Cena match. This big. They're advertising it as the biggest match in television history. You know, another one of these stupendous where they throw out these over crazy explanations for what the match actually is. But it's Kevin Owens and John Cena versus Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn. And what we've got here is pretty obvious, I think. I think that we're going to see Sami Zayn take a pinfall. We're going to see Sami Zayn lose, and it's probably going to be at the hands of his best friend, Kevin Owens. And I believe that what we will see post, that gives us 2.5, 3 weeks until Royal Rumble, we begin the downfall of Sami Zayn. Now, I don't know, as far as thinking about who Roman Reigns' opponent is for Royal Rumble, at this point, it might make sense for it to be Sami Zayn. I know the thought process was at Elimination Chamber, we would get Sami versus Roman, but the timetable may have been sped up a little bit. With John Cena coming back for this match, I think there's a possibility. I still don't love the idea of doing Kevin Owens and Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens taking the loss. I think Kevin Owens needs to be protected. Kevin Owens needs to be the thorn in the side of the bloodline. If Roman Reigns comes out, and even I understand that you can book it with this weird spin of the bloodline's always involved and the bloodline, maybe the Usos could cost him the match, but I don't want Kevin Owens to take a pin. I like protecting Kevin Owens. I think Sami Zayn, right at the Royal Rumble, may be a great time for Sami to take a pinfall. I really do. But I do love this bloodline stuff. I tell you guys, like, I dog on Triple H a lot, but I like the booking of the bloodline. It is the most interesting thing going on in professional wrestling. And you know, it's there's a wide gap. Second, maybe Bray Wyatt, but we can talk about Bray Wyatt. I think that was a regression in the Bray Wyatt story this week. I think we walked backwards. I think that the Bray Wyatt moment on this week's SmackDown was it fell flat compared to what we got last week, and we can't have the highs and lows of this roller coaster style booking that Triple H is choosing to use. We can't. It's not going to be effective long term. This isn't going to work long term. You're losing the casual fans. You hooked us back in. A lot of us came back when we saw Uncle Howdy, and then to go to the next week's television programming and not see Uncle Howdy or any real kind of clue as to who he is means that we're going to drip this thing out another 3 weeks. I don't know how long you can do this. I really don't. I think WWE, I think Triple H, they have to address this booking. We have to, and I get it. Like, the IWC is going to jump out and say you have to be patient. You're too impatient. That's not the way it works with casual fans. That's not the way commercial wrestling works. That's okay in AEW. That kind of stuff is okay. You guys, the IWC allows for 47 weeks of storytelling. In WWE, we don't like that. In WWE, casual fans don't like that. We're not going to stick around for that. And I can tell you, you can go on the internet and you can look at the WWE-centric websites that have a lot of WWE news and a lot of WWE hardcore fans. That nobody's really sold or excited about this Bray Wyatt stuff as much anymore. We all got hyped up when we saw Uncle Howdy. We all thought it was moving forward, but to have the following week follow up with a Bray Wyatt promo, which is definitely was okay. There was nothing wrong with the promo. The promo was the next step in the progression for Bray Wyatt in whatever this is, but we could have had more. Like, there wasn't enough. When I look at the rest of SmackDown, and I have the match list here in front of me, there wasn't enough not to justify possibly a second Bray Wyatt segment. Why can't we have 2 Bray Wyatt segments on Friday Night SmackDown? I mean, because I'll work backwards. We started with the Bloodline kicking off the show, and then we had an undisputed WWE tag team match between Hit Row and the Usos, which was the Usos carrying a match. You know, I'm not sold on Hit Row. I've tried to give them the benefit of the doubt numerous times, but they're not ready. In the same way I say Dominic Mysterio is not ready for that level of main eventness, and it is a main event, even though it's starting the show. The Hit Row is not ready for that level of eyeballs on their product, whatever they're pushing. So, yeah, that was it. Then after that, we got a gauntlet match to determine the number 1 contender, which was another one of these Triple H special. How many people can we throw into the ring to make sure that we can tell 12 stories at once? Because the Xia Li stuff kind of fell flat. You know, and that's just what happens when you're trying to push somebody and then they run into somebody else that you're trying to push even more. Somebody's going to fall flat. And it was Xia Li in this instance, because it's obvious that Raquel Rodriguez is the future of the women's division, especially on SmackDown. Now, just little side note, I would love for next week Raquel Rodriguez to win the WWE SmackDown Women's Championship. I think that is the best move. I think get it off of Ronda Rousey, get her off of the minds of people as a singles competitor, and let her go work a program in the women's tag team division where she will flourish and bring an extreme. Those belts need notoriety more than the SmackDown's Women's Championship. Raquel Rodriguez will be fine carrying the SmackDown Women's Championship, whereas the women's tag team belts still need help in being elevated, and it would be Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler would be the perfect combination. They are natural in this tag team heel personality situation. Like, they just work so well together. But you know, that's the confusion I'm talking about with Triple H. That's the walking backwards in the Bray Wyatt situation, right? It's all of this kind of comes together into me not giving Triple H his flowers. And then you know, you look farther into the episode and we got Rey Mysterio versus Angel, which on paper is fine. It's a good match, but it did nothing to help Karrion Kross, who, when you look at SmackDown, is one of the top 5 most interesting characters. If I'm just naming them off the top of my head, I go Bray Wyatt, Gunther, Roman Reigns / Bloodline, Karrion Kross, and I don't know. We could probably Sami Zayn, right? There's your top 5 characters, and we did nothing to really further. He's standing in the stands with no explanation. He keeps pointing to his wrist like your time is up, but we don't know, other than, like, is Karrion Kross just going to be the guy who comes around and retires people that he thinks are ineffective because of age? We need, you guys, everybody came at me when I said, look, Karrion Kross's booking is the problem with Karrion Kross. It is not him. It is not his inability to get over. You have to give him something that goes along with who he is to get him over. And throwing him immediately into a program with Drew McIntyre, one of the most protected people in WWE, didn't work. And now you throw him into a program with Rey Mysterio, who may be the next most protected person on Friday Night SmackDown. And I don't think that's going to work, because unless you can tell a compelling storyline that makes sense, that allows Karrion Kross to be Karrion Kross, allows him to go into that effective Karrion Kross creepy style booking, I don't know what we're doing. And then what happens is we go to the back and we now have like this side story, which is a whole nother problem that Triple H has, is this cross-pollination of stories. He sometimes you just do too much. Sometimes you just do too much, Triple H. You've got Scarlett now looking like she's heading into a program with Emma, which I don't need Scarlett to wrestle right now. Scarlett is involved with Karrion Kross and should stay involved in that. So are we going to, here's the problem, Triple H. Here's the problem that I'm going to ask you. Are we about to get Madcap Moss and Emma versus Karrion Kross and Scarlett? Because if so, what the fuck? It doesn't even make sense. What Where's the motivation? I don't think Triple H thinks about when building these characters out, because these are characters in a story. All WWE is the Marvel, it's the MCU. It's just wrestling's version of the MCU. And if you don't think about, in storytelling, one of the most important things is character development and intention. And it feels like a lot of Triple H's characters don't have intention. And I think that people latch on to intention. Right now, Bray Wyatt is effective. Even though we're getting slow dripped out, we see the intention of what's happening, right? We see the intention of what's happening with Roman Reigns and Sami Zayn and what people's motivations are. What is Karrion Kross's motivation? I said this back with Hit Row, the Viking Raiders, and Legasma Fantasma. I don't know what their intentions were. Apparently, they just got thrown into a tag team title match. But even then, as long as the bloodline is rolling strong, it's not believable that that's a prize right now. So this cross-pollination of storytelling by Triple H, where 1 minute Karrion Kross is effectively teasing and worried about Rey Mysterio, and that's his focus. And then we walk to the back, and all of a sudden Emma is picking a fight with Scarlett, which means we're probably going to get Madcap and Emma versus Karrion and Scarlett, and it's not effective storytelling. It's too messy. It's a clusterfuck. That's my favorite word. It's clusterfuck. It doesn't make sense. It's bad booking. And so you have this character like Karrion Kross who could effectively be, look, you have Bray Wyatt, you have Karrion Kross, you have all of these interesting characters that you could be developing into things that can stand on their own even without titles, and it's not being done effectively. It's just not. And then we end SmackDown with a Miracle on 34th Street, Ricochet and Braun Strowman versus Imperium, which this is the obligatory holiday special. You know, if it's Thanksgiving, we got to hit someone in the face with a pie. If it's Halloween, we got to stick a pumpkin on someone's head. And if it's Christmas, we have to put some Christmas trees around the ring and have a Miracle on 34th Street fight. And I guess this works in a sense because it kind of played into this idea that Imperium is no nonsense, and yet you're throwing them into a no nonsense match. Michael Cole tried to explain away Gunther as he took off on vacation early because WWE, and this is smart booking, but they're trying to keep Gunther out of the gimmicks. They're trying to make Gunther look like a straight up just wrestling monster, and that works. What they're doing with Imperium works. So Triple H is not all wrong. He's got a few seeds planted. He's got a few pieces of wood in the fire that are starting to catch. But it's like I said with Triple H, it's and a lot of it is the people he's brought back. That's why that article a couple days ago where he talked about being underwhelmed with some of the people he brought back. You brought them back. You have to give them something to do. If you guys look right now, and I know Gunther is a weird example because the last rumor before Vince McMahon was gone was that he was going to bury Gunther, and I do think Triple H saved him. But if we look, the same things that are hot right now are the same things that were hot when Vince McMahon was running the show. There's not a lot of new stars. Like, look, we're still featuring Rey Mysterio. We're still featuring the Bloodline, Roman Reigns. We're still counting on the fact that Brock Lesnar is going to come back at some point, and Bobby Lashley and Seth Rollins. These names aren't changing. But overall, I thought SmackDown it's a filler SmackDown. It's like tonight on Monday Night Raw, we're going to get a recap show. This was filler. We're phoning it in. We have to record 2 SmackDowns in one night, which means we can't overwork certain people. I understand Kevin Owens had travel issues and wasn't able to get to the show, which throws a damper in some of that, but Sammy did phenomenal in making up for that. But call it what it is with this SmackDown. This was a filler SmackDown until we get to the real SmackDown that matters, which is when John Cena returns. All right, so next up, we're going to be doing a new segment called Question of the Day, where I pose a question to you guys, and I want you guys to jump in the comments, either duet it on TikTok. You can make a video on YouTube, but make a video, tag me, make sure I see it. I can possibly feature it on the channel. I want to give you guys an opportunity to kind of interact with the show. So this is Question of the Day. And so each and every day here on the Casual Wrestling Daily Podcast, we're going to pose a question to our audience related to the world of wrestling and encourage you guys to leave your answers in the comments or stitch or duet or make a video on your own podcast. But make sure I'm able to see the answer so that we can converse on what it is. And today's question is, if you were starting a wrestling company from scratch right now, today, are you taking MJF or are you taking Roman Reigns? Now, there's some factors at play when you look at this. Age is one, and status and popularity. But like, I really want y'all dig in deep. Tell me, if you're starting a wrestling company from scratch, are you taking MJF or are you taking Roman Reigns? All right, now that we got that question out of the way, it's time to turn heel. All right, so in this segment of the show, we are going to, this is going to be an opportunity for me to kind of rant or pick apart something I don't like in professional wrestling. And this week, or today, actually, I'm going to talk about this past Wednesday at the last minute. I bought the family an early Christmas gift, and I went on to Ticketmaster.com and I found $30 AEW Dynamite tickets that were in a phenomenal section, but they were limited view tickets, which meant there was going to be something blocking the way. And we get there, we show up, it's nothing. It's a table that's 4 feet below us and a camera crane that's moving around. So needless to say, got $30 tickets for the whole family, and we had an amazing view and an amazing experience at AEW Dynamite. But I want to talk about what happened. And I want to talk about this, and I want to hear everybody's opinion, because maybe this is a reflection on me, and maybe this is less of a reflection on AEW Dynamite. But this was kind of my experience. It's my second time going to an AEW show live. First time when it came to San Antonio was the Britt Baker Thunder Rosa main event that the fucking building exploded. Okay, like, I will tell you, haven't been to a wrestling show that possibly was more loud than when Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker had their main event. So that to me left a solid taste in my mouth that, AEW crowds are the more rowdy and loud crowd. But here's what happened in my experience at AEW Dynamite this week. So I show up, we sit down, we get our seats, get our popcorn, get our drinks, and the show starts. And the first hour of the show, I thought, man, this is fun. The energy in this building is ridiculous. We started with the Ricky Starks promo where he just, starting the show off, knocked it out the park. Ricky Starks is going to be somebody. He's going to be a star. I've doubted that. I thought maybe he had a one-off moment with MJF, but Ricky Starks is that guy. Ricky Starks is somebody who, given a little bit more time and a little bit of right booking, he will be a guy in the near future. So we start off with Ricky Starks, and we start off with Jericho, and we start off with all of this energy and excitement, and the crowd is buying it and loving it, and we roll that straight into the best of 7 match with the Young Bucks and the Death Triangle. Now, here's what I'll say. I've been critical of the Young Bucks and the Death Triangle because I say, these are high spot matches. What I've never done, I've never seen the Young Bucks in person. So the last time I went, I do not believe the Young Bucks wrestled. If they did, I didn't even realize it. But this was the first time I knew who the Young Bucks were, and I watched with intention. They're a live show. I get it now. I understand the Young Bucks. They're a live show. They're the same way that Las Vegas, stage shows don't translate to television. The Young Bucks don't translate as well to television. But in person, watching a Young Bucks match, it's like Circus Soleil. And I'm not saying that in a negative way. It's impressive. The energy, the crowd reaction, Kenny Omega, the whole thing. It was fun. I understand the best of 7. Maybe with the no rules made it even more fun. The use of the Christmas tree and the hammers and all of that stuff. It's a clusterfuck. It's a lot of just shit going on, and you don't know what to look at. But it's fun to watch. I get that's and so coming out, we go Ricky Starks number 1. We roll that right into a best of 7 match. We roll that into a Bryan Danielson promo that ended up being being amazing. And that first, I think it was an hour. That first hour of Dynamite, I said, oh shit. I'm going to have to come back on my podcast and eat every word I've ever said about AEW. I'm going to have to come back and I'm going to have to talk about how Tony Khan has fixed all of this IWC bullshit where he caters to the IWC, and Tony Khan's about to put on one of the most epic wrestling shows that I've seen in person. And then we hit that second hour. We hit that second hour and something happened. I look over, my two daughters, there's no energy. I look around the entire stadium, there's no energy. We get a hook squash match. Nobody gave a shit. Nobody in that arena gave a shit. Why would we give a shit? There was no explanation, no real reason. It just happened. We then rolled that into, I thought, all right, we're going to get the Blackpool Combat Club. We're going to get Mox. Mox is coming out. Mox comes out and he fights Darius Martin. Once again, look around. No crowd reaction. Nobody cares. Nothing's happening. It's just more boring shit. Then we go to FTR versus the Guns. Nothing. Dead. Not exciting. Then we got the Rick Ross train wreck. We got Rick Ross coming out talking while Keith Lee and Swerve are arguing weird. Like, I don't know. It was a clusterfuck. And then we had like some crazy white guys come out of the crowd. One guy covered in tattoos. I didn't even know if he was just coming out of the crowd as a fan or if he was a real deal. Train wreck. Nightmare. And then we finished off with Jamie Hayter versus Sheeta. IWC wet dream, but casual fans could give two fucks. That second hour of Dynamite took a nosedive. It was terrible. It literally, and that's not just me. I was there. I was in the arena. Nobody even perked back up until we got to the main event. And even then, if you looked around, like there was a definite clientele of people that were enjoying that match, and they definitely lived in their mom's basements. Everybody else was crickets. Everybody else didn't care. Everybody else was confused. Where was MJF? You're telling me that you think that Tony Khan thinks it's a good idea to have one episode of Dynamite where MJF is not in that ring talking? You're fucking insane. Where was the Acclaimed? Don't give me the bullshit that the Acclaimed came out later on Rampage. That's a mess. That's stupid. What are you doing? Give up on Rampage, Tony Khan. Rampage is done. Stop trying to force that. If you don't have the Acclaimed and MJF on every episode of Dynamite, you're not trying to get the ratings. You've given up. You've accepted your standard of being the second best wrestling company, and you're just trying to survive and stay above water. I don't get it. It was a weird experience. It was fun. I had fun. I had great seats. I enjoyed the first hour, but we left right when Rampage started because we got the weird trios casino battle royal, which was just a nightmare of a match. We just got up. We were like, that's enough. We're done. We're out of here. But the crowd wasn't buying it. Nobody was buying it. Rampage is, I don't get it. And that's kind of my rant this week is it seems like Tony Khan gets so close sometimes. If you come out of that first hour and in that second hour, you give me an MJF segment. You give me an Acclaim segment, and then you can maybe keep keep the Hater and Sheeta, and you've got a hell of a show. You leave people coming out of this holiday bash excited, but that wasn't a holiday bash. That was a holiday bore. That was an AEW holiday bore. All right, so let's move on. Let's take a look at today's current events in today's Rumble report. This is the Casual Wrestling Rumble Report, your one-stop shop for all the latest news, rumors, and gossip. We are not responsible for any incorrect information that the dirt sheets report. I am just here to give you my good old opinions on the dirt digging done by the Dave Meltzers of the world. today's report features 4 items, starting with Tony Khan has come out and announced that he cannot please everyone on the AEW roster. You think, Tony? I've been screaming this a long time. I think we've all been screaming this a long time. What you did is you made a comment early on and you said this is not going to be the company that takes on the defeated WWE roster, the guys that are cut from WWE. Then you went ahead and you signed everybody that was cut from WWE, and you bloated up your roster till you got 120 superstars and you had 3 hours of television programming. And now you come back and you're having to eat your words, and you're saying, I can't please everybody on the AEW roster. This is what happens. This is why I talk about Tony Khan. And I was talking about it with Lauren the other day. I think Tony Khan would be a hell of a person to hang out with. I think he'd be a great friend. I think he'd be so much fun to be in the presence of, because I think he's just this happy-go-lucky person. I think he's extremely excited. I think he loves professional wrestling, but I don't think he understands the business end. The same way that I don't know that his dad understands the business end of football with coach hiring and things like that, but that's a different topic. First thing I would do, if I took over AEW for Tony Khan, first thing I would do is grab a roster sheet and just cut it in half. You have so much waste on that roster, and I wouldn't give a shit if they all ran back to WWE. Let WWE take on 40 or 50 new contracts if they want. But cut your roster in half. Look through it. Just go through. Trim all the fat. Go through and look at who is actually commercially viable, who actually can move the needle, who actually will get people's eyeballs on television. And I would keep the top 50 wrestlers, men and women, that appeal to multiple different fan bases, and I would get rid of the rest of the roster. Yes, you can't please everybody. When you have 2 hours and you're putting on shit shows like I talked about a minute ago, it's time to just sit down. First thing I would do is turn Rampage into my Ring of Honor show. I would just completely I would bail on the idea that I needed 2 episodes of AEW programming, and I would put together the tightest 2-hour Dynamite I could and make it must see every week. And that means that MJF, the Acclaimed, Jericho, Bryan Danielson, Claudio, those guys would be on TV every week. There's not going to be a week that one of those guys is not front and center on your television screen. Darby Allin, I'm going through and I'm cherry picking my best people, and you're going to be for at least for the next 365 days, you're going to be on every Wednesday. No questions asked. And I'm going to put that in front of people, and I'm going to make compelling storylines, and we're going to make something that happens. But when you have this many people, it's not possible. Tony Khan has to decide at this point. It's kind of a make or break moment, especially with the whole rebranding that AEW is about to go through. Tony Khan has to decide, does he want this to be the IWC savior, or is he ready to be a WWE competitor? Because when you look at the roster and you start looking around, he has all of the correct pieces. You can compete with WWE. Don't get it twisted. They are clearly the number 2 company right now, but they can compete with WWE. When you start looking piece for piece, I did this like 6 or 7 months ago. I took just the top of the roster and compared who had the better roster, and it's not, there's no glaring winner. When you talk about Jericho, Bryan Danielson, you talk about MJF, you talk about Darby Allin, you talk about the Elite, the Young Bucks, the Death Triangle, you start talking about there is enough talent there that you can have a tight 2 hours. But when you start wandering off into some things that are super IWC friendly, it doesn't work. Trim the roster. It's simple. Trim the roster. Trim it down. 50 names. We don't need, you're trying to build a women's division. That's fine. But you build it around Paige, Jade Cargill, Britt Baker, Jamie Hayter, Ruby Riot's fine. But you got to trim off all that extra fat. I'm not going to name names, but you have to trim off all the fat. You have to get rid of the people who have no business being there. If you're not going to use Miro, cut Miro, get rid of him. If you're not going to use Andrade, get rid of him. I'm not going to call them cancers because I don't think they're the cancers, but they can become cancerous. If you're not going to use them, get rid of them. Tighten that budget up. Tighten that up. Just tighten it up, man. It's there. It's there for the taking, Khan. You just have to be smart. It's very AEW heavy news day here. There's an article here about Jade Cargill, and Jade Cargill coming out, and she was asked in an interview why she has not attempted to go after the AEW Women's World Title. I can tell you why, because that's a clusterfuck of a division, and there's no reason for her to jump over to that side when she is nailing her character to the fullest. And she went on to say, "Let me take my time. Let me get to where I need to be to take the proper steps to get to where I want to go." Every time I hear this girl talk, every time I hear this woman talk, it's just like everything is right. Everything that comes out of her mouth is correct. She understands exactly where she's headed, and she understands the path she has to take. Jade Cargill is AEW's biggest success story. Argue that with me. Tell me who's a better success, homegrown success. I don't give a fuck. The IWC keep talking about these pillars of the company, right? MJF, Darby Allin, Jungle Boy. Who was the Sammy Guevara, right? Sammy Guevara, I think the crowd's fed up with him, and not in a good way. Jungle Boy is going to always be Jungle Boy. And that's okay, but he's never going to be the top guy. He'll be really good and the crowd will love him, but he's never going to be, I don't think, or not going to say never, but it'll be a long time before Jungle Boy ascends to the top of a men's division, right? Just based on size and character work, it's not happening. Darby Allin is going to be a niche style of commercial success. He's not going to hold a world title. He's too little. If he wins it, it's going to be in like some reckless fashion, and he won't be a long-term champion. So I'll never say never, but he's not a viable long-term option. And MJF is, of the pillars, the best thing. But outside of that, Britt Baker's a big deal and a big success story. But I think Jade Cargill, if you look long-term and you look at the viability and the commercial possibilities, that's it. She's that woman. She's going to end up being, at some point in her career, if she continues with this attitude and continues to work hard, which I think having an athletic background, that's what she'll do. She at some point will be the biggest women's name in pro wrestling. I believe that. She will surpass Bianca Belair. She will surpass Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair. If she continues with this attitude and grows her skills to match her personality. If she can do that, she will ascend to levels that we have not seen in women's pro wrestling. But, let's give Tony Khan some praise here. He has stuck to it while people have tried to argue and fight against Jade Cargill. He's stuck to it, and he's continued this Goldberg style of booking, which has worked extremely effectively to get Jade Cargill to a point where she feels like a big deal. And he's protected her enough in the ring that she hasn't had to step too much out of her comfort zone to do this. This is an effective use of a mid-card title, and this is an effective use of a winning streak. And so I applaud Jade Cargill. If you didn't listen to the interview, go listen to the interview. It's a little bit funny. She's actually got a great personality, but she's just somebody, she's humble. She gets it. She knows where she's going. She knows she's not ready. So why go jump into a division that now it's got Saraya, it's got Britt Baker, it's got Jamie Hayter, it's got Toni Storm. There's enough going on over there that she can let them all fight for that title, and she can just make, the TBS women's title hers. And effectively, it is hers. She's held it over 360 something days. That's a hell of a run. We're building a superstar here, and Tony Khan, he's nailing that and getting that right. We got a first look at the new AEW Dynamite opening video package. You can find it on YouTube. You can find it on Facebook Watch. You can find it on TikTok. I'm not going to play it. I don't know I imagine that I could probably get away with playing that without getting a copyright strike. I think Tony Khan wants everybody to see that, and I'm going to talk positive about it. It looks clean. It looks good. It looks professional. It's a step up. It's a step in the right direction. It makes me feel like we're headed in a very commercial direction with AEW now. Whether we do or don't is time will tell. But how does the IWC react to it? I think that'll be the big kind of first step. Is does Tony get nervous if the IWC doesn't love this repackaging and this rebuilding? And if we show up on, I believe it's January 4th. If we show up January 4th, Seattle, turn the TV on, and it looks, dare I say, WWE-ish, if it looks very commercial, how is the IWC going to react? Because I think they've taken a pride in this like indie feel of AEW. And if Tony Khan is trying to remove himself from that indie feel and kind of get a more commercial feel, if TNT and TBS and Turner Broadcasting, if they're pushing for a more WWE-like look, we'll see how the IWC reacts to that. It will be extremely interesting. And the last article of the day here is FTR is going to be starting a podcast, and they're teasing that their first guest is going to be CM Punk. We know how CM Punk does on podcast. No, just kidding. I'm excited. I think it'll be fun. I think it's time we hear Punk's side of the story, and I think this is a great platform. Punk is pretty shifty and pretty smart when it comes to where he picks and chooses to fight his battles and get his side of the story out. I think if you just come out and you start crying and screaming and yelling it everywhere, sort of like the Elite did, it gets messy. I think that FTR has a high enough respect from both. Look, I may not be a big fan. I may not understand FTR, but I like them. I especially like some of the things they stand for and talk about. I like them, and I don't think they're bad in the ring by any means. I just don't know. I cannot put them at number one. That's what I can't do. Like top five, sure. We can go top five on FTR. But I think that they're respected enough inside of the wrestling community, between casuals, between the IWC, that everybody will sit down and everybody will listen and give CM Punk at least a fair shot to tell his side of the story. So I hope that's what's happening here. I hope it's not a tease and we get some stupid, but it feels like if CM Punk and these guys are friends the way that we were told they're friends, what a way to launch a podcast. You mean put that bitch number one that week if CM Punk's talking. And so they're credible. They're well liked. I think CM Punk gets to tell his side of the story. It will be fun and interesting to find out what that is. It will be fun and interesting to kind of find out what state of mind CM Punk is in right now and where he thinks he's headed going forward. All that stuff will be fun to find out. So I'm interested. I'm looking forward to that, and that will be another thing that we kind of look out for here in the future. All right, so new thing I'm going to do to finish off the show from now on is something I'm going to call the clean finish. So with the clean finish, I'm going to start ending each episode with a question from a listener. Today's question comes from Ben Thompson in Los Angeles, California, and he says, "Hi, my name is Ben Thompson." Hi, Ben, from Los Angeles, California, and I'm a big fan of the show. My question is, what has been the most influential promotion to your wrestling fandom not named WWE? It's an interesting question. Because first instinct, and it's probably a lot of people's first instinct, is just scream WCW. But I'd be lying if I said that WCW had an influence on my fandom. I was always the anti-WCW kid. I had friends that were WCW fans, and we used to argue, and that's even where my knowledge of WCW comes from, because I didn't watch it. I didn't watch Goldberg. I didn't watch the NWO. I didn't watch Hulk Hogan. I didn't watch Jericho in WCW. Maybe 2 or 3 episodes, but not enough to even really know. There's a big lapse in my wrestling history when it comes to people who, when you talk about WCW, I'm not in that conversation. I can't talk about it. I don't know enough. So it's unfair for me to jump and say that it's WCW. Then second, it's it's kind of quick for me to go, well, that's AEW, right? It's got to be AEW because AEW is the company that kind of taught me that there is wrestling outside of WWE. But I don't know to be honest, I don't know that had any influence on my fandom. I think it just opened my eyes that like 2 products is better than one. And I do believe that. I believe that we need two high-level wrestling companies to keep both companies working hard. So if I really had to answer this honestly, I think that the most influential promotion to my wrestling fandom would be like local wrestling. And here it's RCW, but I think you can apply this to anywhere. I think that local wrestling opened my eyes to this idea that, number one, it doubled me down on knowing I'm a casual wrestling fan. Because I've been to 3 or 4 of these local RCW wrestling shows, which are phenomenal. They're amazing productions for what they are, but they are what they are, and I see them for what they are, and I don't have the passion and the fandom that I see other people who attend these events every month have. And that lets me know I'm a casual wrestling fan, right? I don't buy into the New Japan Pro. I don't know everybody on the indies names. I don't know who the next up-and-comer is. And so I think that indie wrestling like RCW has had the most influence on me because it's made me realize how much I appreciate the WWE for what it is. It makes me appreciate why I like to watch the top level. I like the NFL, the NBA, and that's not a knock on this, because another thing that RCW and local wrestling has made me realize is the talent gap between some of these indie guys and people that are in pro wrestling is luck. That's the only difference. They're as talented as the guys in the WWE. They just probably haven't had that big break or luck yet. So, but interesting enough, I think that, so I would say it's RCW, it's local wrestling. That has had the biggest influence on my wrestling fandom outside of WWE. But ultimately, WWE is why I am a professional wrestling fan. If WWE went away, my love for professional wrestling would fade extremely quickly. But that is all the time we have today. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Casual Wrestling Daily Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's discussions and learned something new. If you have any suggestions or thoughts on future episodes, please do not hesitate to reach out and drop those in the comments section. And do not forget to join me tomorrow, same place, same time, for more wrestling talk. Until then, as the great Mick Foley once said, have a nice day. I will talk to you guys tomorrow. Hosted by Notorious Nerdy D. Dope show that you gon' find. Tune in cause it's online. Hit 'em with a figure 4 leg lock, power driver or clothesline. We bringing that heat like the show, but you should already know the Casual Wrestling Community Show. Let's go. Yeah, Notorious Nerdy D. Woo!